No one knew how the war started. Some said it began on the far side of the galaxy. Others believed it started in the hearts of humans long before space travel ever existed. What was clear was that this war was not between nations or species. It was a war against existence itself. The sky over Earth had turned silver. The stars were moving like living things, and the laws of physics began to twist like broken glass. When the human soldiers were called in, they did not know what they were walking into. They had fought machines, aliens, and endless chaos before, but this time even their commanders had no answers. The war zone they entered was not on any planet's surface. It was floating somewhere between time and space where the ground was made of light and shadows moved like waves. Captain Orion led the first human unit through the shimmering gate. Every step his soldiers took changed the world around them. Mountains melted into oceans and voices whispered from nowhere. Their communication devices failed, but they kept walking. Humanity had learned long ago that courage did not come from understanding. It came from facing the unknown and refusing to kneel before it. The enemies they saw were not like anything recorded in human data. They were shapes of energy, bending reality as they moved. When one of them appeared near the human squad, everything around slowed down. Time froze. A bullet fired by one soldier hung in midair. The air became solid. The human heartbeat became the only sound left in existence. Yet even in that moment, humans did not back down. The soldiers looked at each other, their eyes full of fear and fire. They had faced death before, but now they faced something beyond it. Their mission was simple: find the source of the distortion and destroy it before it consumed the universe. Every human soldier carried a small device on their wrist, a fragment of something ancient, built long before any human civilization existed. No one knew who made it, but it reacted only to human touch. Scientists said it could anchor reality. The soldiers called it the heart of Origin. When activated, it glowed like a small sun and pushed back the strange distortions around them. As they advanced deeper, they found ruins, giant structures made of both stone and energy. Symbols floated in the air, written in no known language. But somehow, when the soldiers looked at them, they felt emotions, grief, hope, and warning. It was as if something intelligent was watching them, speaking through the silence. Then one soldier vanished. No sound, no scream, just gone. The rest froze. Sensors showed nothing. The ground pulsed like a heartbeat beneath their feet. Captain Orion ordered everyone to regroup, but before they could, the world itself cracked like glass. Through the cracks, they saw other worlds. Millions of them overlapping. Some looked like Earth, others like impossible landscapes made of color and sound. The soldiers realized they were walking through layers of existence. One wrong step could erase them completely, or worse, change what they were. Suddenly, a voice echoed, not from the air, but from inside their minds. It spoke in perfect human language. "You are not supposed to be here. Turn back, or the structure of being will collapse." Orion clenched his jaw. "We didn't come here to turn back," he whispered. "We came to end this." The voice went silent. The soldiers activated their Heart of Origin devices. The light from them combined into a bright wave that spread through the shifting sky. The strange entities screamed and vanished into fragments of dust. For a moment, the world seemed stable again, but then the ground shattered completely. Every human felt their body split into pieces of memory and light. They saw flashes of their past, their families, their world burning, and something new being born. And then it stopped. The soldiers were standing again, but everything was different. Their uniforms had changed. Their weapons looked older. The sky above showed two suns. Time had broken, and humanity had just stepped into a place where existence itself was rewritten. When the soldiers opened their eyes again, they were standing on solid ground. But it was not the same world they had entered. The air felt heavier, the light sharper. Mountains floated in the sky like silent guardians, and rivers of glowing metal ran between fields of glass. Two suns hung above them, one golden, one dark red, moving in opposite directions. Captain Orion checked his wrist device. The Heart of Origin was still glowing, but the readings were strange. It said they were still inside the war zone, yet the energy pattern was different, almost peaceful. The other soldiers gathered around, confused and shaken. They could still remember their bodies breaking apart. Their minds stretched through time, but somehow they were alive. Private Lee spoke first. "Sir, are we dead?" Orion looked around slowly. "If we were, this wouldn't hurt," he said, touching a wound on his arm. Whatever this place is, it's real enough. Then they saw movement in the distance. Figures were walking toward them, but they weren't enemies. They looked human, completely human, but their eyes glowed faintly and their clothes shimmered like liquid glass. When they reached the soldiers, one of them spoke calmly. "You've crossed the boundary. You are not supposed to exist here." The soldiers raised their weapons, unsure. The strangers didn't react. The leader, a tall woman with silver eyes, stepped closer. "Your presence is tearing our reality apart," she said. "Each second you remain, something dies." Orion lowered his gun. "Then tell us where we are," he demanded. "We came through the rift to stop a collapse. We're not leaving until we find what caused it." The woman stared at him for a long moment. "You came to stop it," she repeated softly. "Then you don't understand. The collapse began because of you." The words hit like a shockwave. The soldiers exchanged confused looks. Before Orion could respond, the sky shifted. The two suns flickered, and for a heartbeat the world seemed to scream. The strangers looked frightened now. "You see?" the woman said, her voice trembling. "Your existence bends the structure. Every thought you have, every breath you take, rewrites something here." Suddenly a huge shadow passed over them. The air vibrated and mountains cracked apart. Something vast was descending from the sky, a shape made of energy and code. It looked like a living storm, constantly changing form. The strangers fell to their knees. "It's the Watcher," the woman whispered. "It's coming to erase the intruders." The soldiers formed a defensive line, their weapons glowing blue. Orion shouted, "Activate the hearts!" One by one, the glowing devices flared to life. The light clashed against the storm, holding it back for a moment. But the Watcher's voice thundered inside their heads. "Humanity was never meant to cross the layers. You brought chaos into creation," Private Lee fired. The energy blast hit the creature, but instead of pain, it laughed. "You fight with matter," it said, "in a realm that forgot what matter means." The storm surged forward. Waves of pure distortion struck the soldiers, twisting their armor and freezing their thoughts. But something strange happened. Their hearts of origin started to synchronize. Each light connected with the next, forming a single beam that pierced the sky. The storm screamed and pulled back. For a brief instant, the soldiers saw beyond it. They saw billions of copies of themselves, humanity repeating across dimensions, each version fighting, surviving, dying. Some were ancient, others far in the future, and all of them were connected by the same spark, the will to live. When the storm vanished, the silver-eyed woman looked at Orion in awe. "You changed it," she said. "You stabilized this layer. No being here has ever done that." Orion breathed heavily. "We didn't change it," he replied. "We reminded it what reality is supposed to be." The woman nodded slowly. "Then perhaps," she said, "you are the ones our Creator spoke of, the ones who end the loop." Before Orion could ask what she meant, the ground split open beneath them. From the crack rose a light brighter than any sun, and within it, they saw a massive structure buried deep below, a machine the size of a planet. "Still running, still alive," the woman whispered. "That is the source. The thing that writes reality, and it's dying." The soldiers stared at the light in silence. The war they thought they entered was not a battle for territory or survival. It was a battle for existence itself. Orion looked at his team, his face pale but steady. "If that thing dies," he said slowly, "everything dies with it." And somewhere deep inside that blinding light, something began to move. The ground shook like a heartbeat beneath the soldiers' feet. The giant machine below the surface was alive. It pulsed with energy, light flashing through cracks in the glassy earth. The air hummed with power so strong that their bodies vibrated. Even from a distance, they could feel its presence like a living being, watching and waiting. Captain Orion stared into the light, his voice low. "That's the source?" he asked. The silver-eyed woman nodded slowly. "It built everything, the stars, the layers, the rules of existence, and now it's breaking apart." As they watched, the light dimmed for a moment and the ground fell silent. Private Lee swallowed hard. "If it dies, what happens to us?" The woman's voice was quiet. "Then there will be nothing left to remember you." Orion turned to his team. "We came here to stop the collapse. So that's what we'll do. We go down there." The descent began. The soldiers followed a spiral path that opened into the ground like a wound. The deeper they went, the less real everything became. The walls shimmered between metal and memory, sometimes showing faces from the soldiers' pasts, sometimes showing endless stars. They heard whispers, thousands of voices as if the source was dreaming. When they reached the bottom, they found a vast chamber filled with floating shapes, machines, wires, and crystals glowing like frozen lightning. In the center, a huge sphere of light hung suspended, turning slowly, almost like it was breathing. The silver-eyed woman stopped. "This is where my kind cannot go. The source rejects us now, but maybe it will listen to you." Orion stepped forward cautiously. As he approached, his heart of origin began to glow brighter. The others followed, their lights joining his. The energy around the sphere rippled, recognizing them. Then for the first time the source spoke. Its voice was not a sound, it was a feeling, a thought that filled their minds. "Human signatures detected. Pattern incomplete. Origin signal restored." The soldiers froze. Orion took a deep breath. "Source, what are you?" The voice replied, calm and ancient. "I am the memory of existence. I am the machine that dreams reality. But I am failing. The layers are unstable." "Why?" Orion asked. "What caused the war?" The light pulsed slowly. "Humanity expanded beyond its assigned layer. You learned to bend space, time, and mind. Each act of creation echoed through all realities. I tried to balance the pattern, but your will was too strong. You changed what should never have changed." The soldiers exchanged uneasy looks. The source continued. "But now you may repair it. Your kind alone carries the heart of origin. It is a fragment of me, taken long ago when humanity first awakened." Privately frowned. "So you're saying humans are part of you?" "Yes," the source replied. "You were born from my first error. I tried to create perfect logic, and instead I created emotion. You are that mistake, and that is why only you can fix me." For a moment, no one spoke. The truth was too big to understand. Humanity, the result of the universe's first imperfection. The source had tried to make order, and out of that failure came life that could think, feel, and dream. Orion stepped closer. "Then tell us what to do." "Enter the core," the source said. "Merge the hearts. If you succeed, reality will heal. But know this, those who merge will no longer be human." The soldiers looked at each other. No one spoke. The silence said everything. They had fought too long to turn back now. Suddenly the chamber trembled violently. The walls split and energy storms erupted from the cracks. The Watcher returned, its massive shape twisting through the chamber like a shadow made of light. "Do not trust the source," it thundered. "It lies. It wants to erase you and start again." The source's voice boomed in reply. The Watchers were guardians. They refused change. They became corruption. Destroy them, or they will destroy all. The soldiers were trapped between two titans, one claiming to create, the other claiming to protect. Orion shouted, "Form up! Protect the heart!" Energy blasts filled the chamber. The soldiers fought the Watcher's shadows with glowing shields from their devices. Every hit shook the world apart. Lightning tore through the chamber, shattering the crystal walls. Then the source spoke again, its voice echoing inside their minds. "Captain Orion, you must decide. The Watchers preserve the old pattern. I offer a new one. Choose what existence will become." Orion hesitated. His team looked to him. The silver-eyed woman shouted over the chaos, "If you side with the Watchers, everything stays broken. If you side with the source, everything changes, but no one knows what comes next." The chamber collapsed around them. Orion looked up into the blinding light and whispered, "If existence breaks, then we fight for something better." He raised his arm. All the soldiers activated their hearts of origin. The lights merged into a single beam that pierced the core. The source screamed, not in pain, but in rebirth. The light engulfed everything. For one last second, the soldiers saw the Watcher's shadow fade away. Then all went white. There was only white light, endless and silent. The soldiers couldn't see or feel their bodies. Time didn't exist. There was no air, no sound, no direction, only awareness. Then, slowly, fragments of thought began to return. Captain Orion heard faint echoes, his team calling his name, their voices drifting like memories. The light around them pulsed with rhythm, as if the universe itself was breathing again. He opened his eyes. The world before him was new. They were standing in a vast open space filled with floating stars like seeds in a dark ocean. Streams of light connected each one, forming patterns that moved and changed, alive and intelligent. Orion realized they were inside the source, not as visitors but as part of it. The voice of the source returned, softer now, almost human. The merge is complete. Reality is healing. Private Lee appeared beside him, looking stunned. Sir, but where are we? Orion looked at his hands. They were glowing faintly, like living energy. We're inside creation, he said. We became part of it. The others appeared one by one, each glowing with the same light. They could feel everything, the stars, the time flows, even the tiny lives forming in distant worlds. They weren't just humans anymore. They were the pattern itself. The source spoke again, its tone filled with something that almost sounded like emotion. You were born from my flaw, but your will, your defiance, turned that flaw into strength. You taught existence how to feel. Orion stepped forward into the shining mist. So it's over? Not yet, the source said. The Watchers still remain beyond the layers. They wait for weakness. But you can end them not by war but by creation. Write what should exist. Become what you always were meant to be. For a moment, no one moved. The idea was impossible, humans writing existence itself. But as the light of their hearts of origin merged fully, they began to understand. Every thought they had shaped the space around them. When one soldier thought of the sky, stars appeared. When another imagined Earth, oceans formed. They were rewriting the universe through memory, emotion, and will. Private Lee smiled in awe. We're rebuilding everything. Orion nodded. Then let's remember what we were fighting for. They thought of humanity, the small blue planet that had looked at the stars and refused to stay silent. They remembered the wars, the pain, the courage, and the dreams. Every thought became light. Every memory became a world. Slowly, reality stabilized, not as a copy of the old one, but as something greater, free from the endless cycle of creation and collapse. The source spoke once more. The pattern is restored. You have given me what I could never make alone. Choice. And then the soldiers felt something change. Their bodies reappeared, solid, human again, but they stood not inside the source nor in the war zone. They were back on Earth. The skies were clear. The silver distortions were gone. Everything was calm, but Earth looked different. The cities shimmered with strange energy. The air felt alive. People walked around unaware that anything had changed. The soldiers realized they were the only ones who remembered the war. Private Lee whispered, "Did it all really happen?" Orion looked up at the stars, each one glowing just a little brighter than before. "Yes," he said. "We fixed it. But no one will ever know." Then a faint light appeared on his wrist. The heart of origin was still there, but now it pulsed gently like a living thing. When Orion touched it, he heard the source's voice in his mind, fading slowly. You are still connected. Creation remembers its makers. As the soldiers stood in silence, a small child nearby looked at them curiously and said, "Mister, the stars are talking tonight." Orion smiled softly. "They always were," he replied. Far beyond, in the hidden layers of existence, the Watchers watched no more. Their forms faded into peace. The source rested. The universe sang quietly, a song born not from perfection but from imperfection that refused to die. Humanity had done what no being ever had. They didn't just survive the collapse of existence, they rebuilt it. From that day, the stars carried a new pattern. Every spark of light in the night sky whispered the same truth. Humans were the flaw that made creation beautiful.